Picture this, right? It's the end of a long day.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, you walk into the kitchen, you grab the handle of the dishwasher, and you pull it open. And you're fully expecting that blast of hot steam and a rack full of sparkling clean plates.
That's the dream.
Right. But instead, you look down, and you are greeted by this murky, nasty, grayish pool of standing water just sitting at the bottom of the tub.
It is the absolute worst feeling.
It really is. Panic usually sets in immediately. You start calculating the hourly rate of a plumber or, like, the exorbitant cost of a whole new appliance.
Not to mention the sheer inconvenience of washing dishes by hand for the next 2 weeks.
Exactly. Nobody wants to do that. But today, you can take a deep breath because we are fixing it together. Welcome to this custom deep dive into troubleshooting a dishwasher that simply will not drain.
Yes.
We're looking at a masterclass tutorial from the YouTube channel Adam DIY.
Yeah.
And our mission today is to completely shortcut that anxiety of appliance repair.
Which is so needed, honestly.
It is. We are going to prove that you do not need to be some sort of master technician to solve this. So, okay, let's unpack this, because one of the most reassuring takeaways from watching Adam tackle this machine was something that actually caught me off guard.
What was that?
Well, you'd think dishwashers are these rapidly evolving tech gadgets, right?
Mm-hmm.
But underneath the digital displays, the basic mechanics haven't really changed much in decades.
They really haven't. I mean, what's fascinating here is that whether you have an older bare bones model or a brand new smart dishwasher, it rarely matters.
Right. Even if it's a completely different brand than the Whirlpool unit featured in the source video.
Exactly. The core engineering problem, how to spray hot soapy water over plates and then pump the dirty water out, that was essentially solved a long time ago.
So they just stick with what works.
Pretty much. Manufacturers actually use the exact same internal components across dozens of different brands. So what you find inside your specific machine is going to look almost identical to the anatomy we're about to walk through today.
I mean, realizing that all dishwashers are basically identical underneath is a huge relief. It's honestly like finding out that all gas-powered cars, whether it's like a tiny hatchback or a massive pickup truck, rely on the exact same basic internal combustion principle.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. Once you understand that an engine just needs air, fuel, and a spark, popping the hood isn't nearly as terrifying. It totally removes that intimidation factor.
Yeah, it shifts your mindset from being just a passive consumer to an active troubleshooter.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at your machine and think, well, my front panel looks completely different, so the inside must be a totally alien landscape.
Right, because it isn't.
Exactly. Understanding this universal design gives you the confidence to tinker. But since we know the internal pump relies entirely on an open exit route to push that dirty water out,
Yeah.
the very first place we have to look isn't even inside the machine.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's where that water's trying to go.
Ah, right. Which brings us to the surrounding plumbing ecosystem. Before we touch a screwdriver, or even start pulling racks out of the dishwasher itself, we have to inspect the kitchen sink.
We do.
Because, wait, so if I'm understanding this correctly, my dishwasher's catastrophic failure might literally just be a localized sink problem.
Precisely. You have to think of the kitchen sink and the dishwasher as a single interconnected ecosystem, not isolated boxes. If you trace the path of the water, there's a drain hose attached under your counter that leads directly from the dishwasher to either your garbage disposal or the main sink plumbing.
Okay, so where do we look first?
First on the suspect list is the disposal. If you shine a flashlight inside your garbage disposal, there is a small inlet port where the dishwasher drain hose connects. Adam describes it in the video as kind of a nasty little hole.
Which is perfectly accurate, let's be honest.
Oh, 100%. It's highly susceptible to getting choked with unground food debris or grease or, fibrous vegetable matter.
Right. And you can actually unscrew the hose clamp underneath the sink and pull that pipe off to check it. Because if food or debris is restricting the water flow at that junction, the water literally has nowhere to go.
Nowhere at all.
You can't leave the dishwasher, it just sits in the bottom of the tub.
Yeah.
But okay, let's say that port is clear. The next culprit you're supposed to check is the P-trap, right?
Yes, the P-trap. That's that distinctive U-shaped pipe under the sink. And there's a specific mechanical reason why it's a prime suspect here.
Is it the shape?
Exactly. The whole purpose of a P-trap is to hold a small amount of standing water in that U-bend at all times. That water creates a physical seal, blocking toxic and foul-smelling sewer gases like hydrogen sulfide and methane from coming up out of the municipal sewer line and into your kitchen.
Right, which we definitely don't want.
Yeah.
But the very design that makes it work as a gas trap also makes it a massive debris magnet.
You hit the nail on the head. Fluid dynamics dictate that when water hits that tight curve and has to fight gravity to go back up the other side, its velocity drops significantly.
Slows down.
Right. And when the water slows down, heavy solids fall out of suspension. So over time, coffee grounds, eggshells, or coagulated grease accumulate right at the bottom of that curve, creating a severe bottleneck.
So if your kitchen sink itself is draining sluggishly, that is your massive neon sign that the P-trap or the plumbing is the issue, not the dishwasher appliance itself.
Exactly.
But wait, I have a question about that. If the sink and the dishwasher share the exact same drain pipe and my P-trap gets totally clogged, why doesn't all the dirty water from my sink just flow backward and flood the bottom of my dishwasher every time I wash my hands?
That is an excellent question. And it comes down to a brilliant bit of passive engineering called a high loop, or in some local building codes, an air gap.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, if you look under your sink, the dishwasher drain hose shouldn't just run straight across the floor to the disposal. It should be routed way up high, pinned almost right under the countertop before dropping back down to connect to the drain.
Oh, I've seen that. So gravity acts as a natural check valve.
Exactly. The sink water would have to defy gravity and travel up that steep incline to backwash into your dishwasher.
That makes perfect sense. Gravity does the heavy lifting. Okay, so let's assume we've checked the sink. The sink drains beautifully, the disposal is clear, the high loop is correct, and the P-trap is clean. The external plumbing gets a clean bill of health.
Which means
That means the bottleneck is definitely inside the appliance. Time to open the door and prep for surgery.
in preparation here is critical. You have to clear your workspace to properly access the bottom of the tub. Taking out the bottom rack is easy, you just roll it out. But for the top rack, it's held in with slide clips on the left and right rails.
Right, in Adam's video, he demonstrates how you push a small internal lever on the clip, lift it slightly, and the rack slides entirely off the tracks.
Yep, it's super simple once you know the trick.
And while you have the door wide open and you're getting those racks out of the way, it is the perfect time to do some basic preventative maintenance checks.
Oh, definitely. Like what?
Well, you should look at the screws securing the inner door panel, because the machine vibrates violently during the wash cycle, right? So those screws can slowly back out over time.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and if they protrude even a millimeter or two, the door won't seat properly against the frame. And you also need to inspect the rubber gasket running around the perimeter.
Your door seal.
Exactly. If there's even a tiny tear or degradation in that rubber seal, capillary action will draw water right through it, and then your dishwasher will leak directly onto the floor right by the bottom corner of the door.
Good catch. But before you start actually unscrewing anything down in the tub, you have to execute what is arguably the golden rule of internal appliance repair.
The golden rule. Let's hear it.
You must lay a thick cloth or towel down over the open drain at the bottom of the machine before putting a tool in your hand.
The drop cloth. Yes. Watching Adam mention this was fantastic. It's such a simple, ingenious step. I naturally think of it like a surgeon laying down a sterile drape to isolate the surgical field, so nothing falls into the patient's chest cavity.
Surgeon is a fair analogy, but honestly, I'd say it's more akin to a mechanic trying to rebuild a carburetor suspended directly over an open storm drain.
Oh, man.
Because if you drop a screw down into the inner plumbing of the dishwasher, your quick fix just turned into an absolute nightmare.
Because it's gone forever.
Worse than that, the screws you'll be removing from the back and top water feed tubes are made of stainless steel.
Right. Which makes sense because of the water.
Exactly. It's necessary because they live in a highly corrosive, constantly wet environment.
So, moral of the story. Lay the cloth down. Save yourself a massive headache later. Okay, so the storm drain is covered. It's time to take apart the actual mechanics at the bottom of the tub and find our hidden culprit.
First up is removing the lower sprayer arm. This is usually toolless. There's a knurled plastic nut right in the center. You just spin it off, and the arm lifts away.
Nice and easy.
Yeah. But once you have the clearance, you are going to need a specific tool to remove the pump housing cover. You'll need a T15 Torx bit.
Right. And for those who might not know, a Torx bit is that star-shaped driver rather than a standard flathead or Phillips. Why do appliance manufacturers use these specific star screws inside the tub anyway?
It basically comes down to torque and manufacturing efficiency. A Phillips head is actually designed to cam out, meaning the screwdriver slips out of the grooves before you over-tighten and break the screw.
Oh, I didn't know that was intentional.
It is. But on a robotic assembly line and inside an appliance that vibrates heavily for thousands of hours, they need tight tolerances without stripping the screw heads. The star-shaped Torx design handles high torque without slipping, so you'll need that T15 bit to remove 4 specific screws holding the cover down.
And this is where the puzzle gets a little tricky, right? Because only 3 of those Torx screws are actually visible when you look down.
Right, 3 are plain as day, but the 4th is hiding behind a small internal water delivery tube.
Sneaky.
Very. And to access it, you don't pry or force the tube. You simply turn it about 45 degrees, and it'll unseat, allowing you to lift it out of the way.
But there's a crucial detail here that the video really zeroes in on. When you lift that tube off its housing, you have to watch out for a tiny, clear plastic O-ring or gasket.
Yes, do not lose that ring.
It often sticks to the tube and then falls off when you move it.
Yeah.
You absolutely must hang on to that.
Hmm.
Without it, the water pressure won't seal properly, and your upper spray arms will barely trickle.
Exactly. But once you secure that ring and move the tube, you can finally access and remove that hidden 4th screw.
Okay, so with all 4 screws removed, the teardown gets to the heart of the matter.
It does. You pull out a small plug, lift out the main cylindrical filter assembly, and remove one final cover piece.
And that sequence exposes the true inner workings of the drain system, the macerator or chopper blade, and the protective fine mesh screen.
Right. And this is exactly where the vast majority of drainage failures originate.
The moment of truth. When Adam lifted that final cover in the video, he found the culprit immediately.
Yeah, he didn't have to dig far.
Not at all. You're looking for obvious chunks of plastic, undissolved paper, or debris crammed tightly into the corners of the screen. And what he actually pulled out of the impeller housing was a label.
A tiny label.
Specifically, one of those flexible plastic dinosaur stickers that come attached to the bottom of kids' plates.
Unbelievable.
Right. You wash the plate 50 times, the adhesive finally gives up, and the sticker washes down into the machine. This is where you really have to appreciate the irony here. Are you telling me this heavy-duty, multi-$100 metal machine is regularly defeated by a dinosaur sticker from a toddler's plate?
It sounds absurd, I know. But if we connect this to the bigger picture and break down the fluid dynamics of a dishwasher, it makes perfect logical sense.
Okay, explain that.
Well, we tend to think dishwashers fill up all the way to the top like a bathtub. They don't. A dishwasher actually only pulls in about 2 or 3 gallons of water, which pools in that small sump at the very bottom.
Just a small puddle, really.
Exactly. The machine's impeller pump vigorously sucks that same water up, blasts it out of the spray arms, lets it rain back down to the bottom, passes it through that fine mesh filter to catch the food, and then pumps it right back through the arms again.
So it's recycling the same water continuously for the duration of the wash cycle.
Yes. So the filter's flow rate is absolutely critical to the whole operation. That little metal chopper blade you see in the housing. Its job is to pulverize soft food particles so they can pass through the mesh and eventually down the drain.
Like a mini garbage disposal.
Exactly. But a blunt macerator blade simply cannot grind up a stuck, wet, flexible piece of plastic or a laminated sticker. The plastic just swirls around until the suction of the pump plasters it flat against the mesh screen.
And suddenly you've completely blinded the screen.
Right.
Blinded, meaning the water can't pass through the mesh holes anymore, right?
Correct. The water is blocked. The pump starves for water, a condition known as cavitation, and it just spins in the air, trying to push water that isn't there.
Wow.
And when the wash cycle ends and the machine switches over to the drain pump to evacuate the tub, the water still can't get past that sticker on the screen to reach the drain hose. The system shuts down, leaving you with that murky pool of despair.
A tiny sticker starves a high-powered pump. It's fascinating. But, all right, we've found the blockage, we've retrieved the soggy sticker and the plastic film rammed in the corners. Now we have to clean the whole assembly out.
Yes, a thorough deep clean.
And more importantly, we need to figure out the exact tactile sequence to put this puzzle back together without breaking it.
So you start with cleaning the sump basin you just exposed. Clear out all the physical debris. Then reach in and physically spin the little chopper blade with your finger.
Is it supposed to feel loose?
It will be a little stiff due to the magnetic resistance of the motor below it. That's entirely normal, but it should rotate smoothly. It should never feel like it's binding or grinding against the plastic housing.
Got it. And we can't forget the main cylindrical filter we pulled out earlier. In the video, Adam shows how you pop the back off the filter to clean the underside of the mesh.
This is so important.
Because all that accumulated crud, macerated food pulp, calcium buildup, and grease, it doesn't just sit there, it coats the mesh. This is actually why a dishwasher will often start cleaning your plates less effectively long before it actually stops draining.
Exactly. If the water flow is restricted by a film of grease on the filter, the pump can't generate enough pressure to blast the food off the plates on the top rack. The spray arms just dribble instead of blasting.
Ugh, the dribble. Nobody wants the
Yeah.
dribble. So once you've scrubbed everything spotless, the reassembly begins. And this requires a very specific approach that relies on the feel of the parts.
Very much so. When you place that inner pump cover back on, it should seat perfectly. It is engineered to slip right into place. If you are pushing down on it and it feels like it is fighting back, something is misaligned.
So don't force it.
Under no circumstances should you force it. Take it out, reorient it, and let it drop naturally into its grooves.
I really love this concept. You have to practice mechanical empathy. You have to actually listen to the machine through your hands.
Mechanical empathy. I like that.
Yeah. If the plastic is resisting, it's communicating that you're doing it wrong. Trying to muscle plastic appliance parts together to save time is exactly how you snap a tab and turn a $0 maintenance job into a $200 replacement part.
Which totally defeats the purpose of DIY. Once the cover is seated naturally, you insert the main filter back into its slot. And here is where we get to a brilliant pro tip for reassembly regarding those 4 Torx screws.
Oh, I love this part.
Do not put the first screw in and drive it all the way down tight. You want to place all 4 screws into their respective holes, hand threading them just a few turns before you torque any of them down.
Yes, I love the one-at-a-time screw trick. It is exactly the same principle as hand threading the lug nuts on a car tire before using a wrench.
Exactly the same.
You have to get them all seated loosely first, because if you tighten the very first screw down all the way, you shift the alignment of the entire plastic cover. By the time you get to the 4th screw, the hole won't line up and you'll end up cross-threading it.
And it also acts as an insurance policy. If you drop one of the screws while trying to maneuver the T15 bit and the other 3 are only loosely threaded, you can easily lift the cover slightly to retrieve it.
Right.
If they were fully tightened down, you'd have to undo all your work just to find the lost screw. It prevents you from painting yourself into a corner.
Such a time saver. Okay, so the 4 screws are torqued down securely but gently. From there, we just reverse our initial teardown steps. We slip that vital clear plastic O-ring back onto the water tube, insert the tube, and rotate it 45 degrees so it locks into the housing.
Then you reattach the lower sprayer arm. There is a specific tactile check here as well. The knurled nut you tighten to hold the sprayer arm should spin effortlessly.
So it shouldn't catch at all.
Right. If it feels bound up or doesn't spin freely, the threads are misaligned. Pull it up, loosen it, and reset it until it spins smooth.
Finally, keeping our trusty drop cloth securely over the drain until the very last second, we put the stainless steel screws back into the upper and rear water feed brackets. We slide the top and bottom racks back in, snap those side clips back onto the rails, and the surgery is complete.
It is. And the most encouraging statistic to keep in mind here is that clearing this mesh fixes the vast majority of draining problems.
That's great news.
Yeah, most of the time the pump itself is perfectly fine. It just physically couldn't pull water past whatever was blinding the filter. However, there is a technical caveat we have to acknowledge.
There's always a caveat in appliance repair, isn't there?
Unfortunately, yes. If you go through all these steps, verify the P-trap is clear, scrub the filter spotless, reassemble everything perfectly, run a test cycle, and the water still isn't leaving the tub,
Then what?
then you are likely dealing with an actual pump failure. Usually this means the impeller on the drain pump has sheared off or the pump's electrical solenoid is burned out, and that is a significantly bigger job. Yeah, it actually requires pulling the entire dishwasher out from the counter, laying it on its side, and accessing the machinery from underneath.
But we cross that bridge only if we come to it. Because statistically speaking, you just saved yourself a massive service call fee by finding a wet piece of paper over the weekend.
Exactly.
So let's remind you of the journey you just took. You, listening right now understand how to diagnose whether a flood in your kitchen is a systemic plumbing issue or an appliance issue.
You know the physics of a high loop and a P-trap.
Right. You know how to safely dismantle an internal pump housing using a T15 Torx bit without stripping the screws. You understand why an impeller pump cavitates when a kid's plate sticker blinds the mesh screen.
Beware the kids' plate stickers.
Seriously. And of course, you know how to reassemble the entire unit with precision, using a drop cloth and a healthy dose of mechanical empathy.
You've taken an appliance that most people view as a mysterious, intimidating black box and broken it down into a logical, manageable sequence of mechanical interactions. You've demystified the machine.
We really have.
Yeah.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today, something that builds on the mechanics we've just discussed.
Oh, let's hear it.
Think about the invisible filters operating in your own daily routines. How often is a massive breakdown in your life, whether that's a stall in a workflow, a project that just isn't moving forward, or even an inexplicable friction in a relationship, not actually a catastrophic system failure?
That's deep.
Right. How often is it just the result of a tiny, forgotten label clogging up the mechanism, quietly waiting for you to clear it out?
Just a little sticker causing all that chaos.
Exactly. Sometimes you don't need a whole new system or a massive overhaul. You just need to clear the screen so the pressure can return. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep looking under the hood, and definitely keep pulling things apart to see how they work. We'll catch you next time.